Well, hello and welcome to this look into how to create a client generating rockstar website, a case study for coaches, clinicians, and consultants. Now, of course, this is for a lot of people, even if you don't fit into those three categories. I just thought that would be a fun, alliterative way of saying, hey, this is for people who serve other people that are likely to be in something like a coach or a clinician type of position. Maybe you're a consultant. If you're in that field, then this is for you if you want to learn how to generate clients through your website. So let's get started. I am your host, Steve Pedersen. I am a solo entrepreneur, probably like you. I'm a freelance web designer. And I market myself as Rockstar Website Design. I've been doing website design since probably 2001. So for quite a number of years, I've had a lot of clients, a lot of experience. I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot the hard way because I've pretty much taught myself this whole business. I've had some expert gurus kind of help me out with some different aspects of marketing along the way, which has been tremendously helpful. And so I'm very excited to be able to share those things with you right now. So let's get started. What I'm going to be doing here is giving you a brief overview of just some sort of technical things, maybe some theoretical type things. And that what we're going to do is we're going to jump into an actual case study. We're going to take a look at a website and just take a look at where it's at, how it can be improved, what it's doing right, these kinds of things. So that's what we're going to do. And so first of all, I'm going to give you three simple steps. And the first step number one, is you have to understand, and this even precludes step one, you have to understand how your website fits into your overall marketing strategy. I don't know how many people, obviously if you're a coach or you're a consultant, a clinician, whatever your expertise is, it's probably not in website design or online marketing. And so it's just natural, you're not going to be aware of these things. And a lot of times what people do is they just jump into, I need a website. Let me get a website out there. And so they create a website and they just throw up stuff that they think that they need. And so what I've come to experience is that what you need to do is understand how your website fits into your overall marketing plan. And so the first thing that you need to do before even starting a website is you need to develop your marketing funnel. And you've probably heard about what a marketing funnel is. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of talk you through a couple of things here in relation to that. First of all, we're going to talk about reverse engineering your products and services from the greatest commitment level down to the least commitment level on the part of your potential client. Okay, so that's one thing we're going to talk about. And then we're going to talk about determining how you're going to create awareness and engagement around those products and services. So let's jump into the first part, which is creating the funnel of your products and services. Now what I've come up here is just a very hypothetical situation. I'm not saying this is yours. I'm just saying this is kind of an idea of what a funnel might look like. And then, so for example, in this case, we have your top tier. This is sort of the inner circle. This is the person that's the most committed. This is sort of your the ideal situation where you would be making the most money. This is the most involved people would be. And an example of that might be a one-on-one coaching situation where you're coaching, you're consulting your expertise to somebody on a one-on-one level, and maybe you're doing it on a monthly basis. So there's a monthly subscription, and a pretty high price tag comes along with that because it's your unfettered access to you, baby. So you're giving away your expertise on a one-on-one level. So that would be the top tier, the innermost circle, the VIP circle, as they say. Maybe something that would happen before that would be like your middle tier would be you'd have group coaching, and it wouldn't be as much of a financial commitment, but then they wouldn't get as much of a one-on-one dynamic with you. A next thing might be your lower tier might be just like a DIY program. They don't even have access to you personally at all. They just have access to a program that you've created online that they can consume. And that's obviously a much lower price tag. Maybe that's just a one-time fee. Something that might happen before they even get to that level, is their beginner tier, where they buy something really inexpensive from you, like an ebook or just some other kind of product, where it's just it is a financial commitment, but it's a very small financial commitment that because you're still kind of courting them. They really don't know you, and you want to kind of give them more of your expertise. But even before that, and one of the most important steps that you can have people take is this introductory stage, where you're just offering them something for free. You have either a free ebook or a free PDF, or in my case, I offer for Rockstar Website Design, I offer a free guide on the seven secrets to a website that rocks. But what you do is they're giving you something. They're taking that first step. It's kind of like you're at a party and you've kind of met somebody and you're talking with them and you're like, would you be interested in giving me your phone number? They're not giving any money yet at this point, but they're just taking that first step of commitment, which is to give you an email address. And they could either do that through your email autoresponder, or they might subscribe as a blog subscriber to your blog. So that's kind of an hypothetical idea of a funnel that you want to have set up for your products and services. And then you want to create awareness and engagement. And maybe you've seen something like this before, where the funnel idea is that the very first thing that you want to do is just simply let people know that you're out there. And here, this is what I do. If you think of it kind of like a cocktail party, where you go and you're just letting people know that you're alive, that you exist, that you do stuff. That's kind of what the first level is, just awareness. You're just simply creating awareness. And then the next level would be, you're at this cocktail party and you see somebody that's interesting, and you walk up to them and you start engaging with them and you start talking with them and you start developing a rapport. You get to know them, they get to know you. There's still no commitment yet, but there's dialogue going on. And that's what engagement is all about. And then what that will hopefully lead to, probably with, when you walk into a cocktail party, you're probably not going to engage with every single person there. I went yesterday to an event for my daughter's high school. She just started as a freshman at this high school, and they had this sort of parent, night, and they had everybody put these name tags and they put them into categories, and they said, go around and try to find people with similar categories on their name tags and just start to get to know them. And it was kind of overwhelming, because there was a food truck and everybody wanted to eat and nobody got any. I didn't meet any new people because I was so interested in kind of my own little world and talking with my family and talking with a couple of people that I already knew and eating. So that's the idea in your business. You're going to be present. People are going to see you. There was a lot of people there that saw me, and there was some music playing, and so I was kind of bouncing around. I was having a great time. And even though nobody actually, or not, I won't say nobody, but most of the people there did not engage with me on a dialogue level, I guarantee you a lot of people saw me. And when people look around at each other, they judge you. They judge you by your actions. They judge you by your words. They judge you by your physique, what you look like. And so I can guarantee you that even though I did not physically talk to a lot of people and engage with them in that way, my presence was made known. And so that's what creating an awareness for your business is all about. People might not be engaged. Listen, I do these Facebook Live events, and all the time, and there's not a lot of people that actually engage with me while I'm doing the Facebook Live. But it's interesting. I talk to people all the time that say, "Oh, Steve, I've been watching your Facebook Lives and they're incredible, man. Keep up the great work." I'm like, I had no idea that they were watching. And so that's just the power of just creating an awareness. You don't always know whose radar that you're on, but it's just you have to get yourself out there. So you create this awareness, and then the people that are interested will start engaging with you. And once you start engaging, then it goes to the next step, which is conversion. You're going to convert them into either like we talked about some of these other things, a subscriber. First of all, they're going to convert that way. They're going to convert by purchasing low-end products. And hopefully what that's going to lead to is loyalty. They're going to say, this is the person I want to deal with exclusively. And then that's going to actually lead to like, man, I want to tell other people about this. And so they're going to become advocates for you. So that's kind of the general idea there of creating an awareness and engagement. Let's talk about some specific ways now of how to create awareness. And of course, one of the great ways that's free, this is so wonderful that we have this available to us, which is social media. Just going and posting things on Facebook or LinkedIn or Instagram, Twitter, all of these places where you can post social things. I'm sure you have email. Now, this isn't an email newsletter per se. This is just like you go into your Google, your Gmail, and you find out who do I know? And just start emailing people that you already have in your email account, in your address book, basically, letting them know, hey, this is what I do. Of course, if you're able to get into public speaking and do some public speaking engagements, whether they be free or paid, there's a lot of ways to get out there and speak publicly, speaking to Rotary clubs and Kiwanis clubs, Chamber of Commerce, to let people know what you're up to. Another great way to create awareness is writing your own blog posts with great SEO so that you can generate sort of this organic traffic to your website, that not only your own blog post, but also being a guest blog post writer on somebody else's blog who maybe already has a very well-established blog. One thing that you can do, of course, is run ads, whether that be in newspapers or online, Google AdWords or Facebook ads, Instagram ads, you name it, all kinds of ways to run ads. Flyers, printed flyers that you can hang up in churches or synagogues or other restaurants or just anywhere out in public where you can hang up a flyer is a great way to generate awareness. And then again, of course, going to any kind of networking event. I look at anything, any time that you're out in public is a potential networking event. So you could have business cards with you and just let people know, hey, this is what I do. It's kind of mind-blowing how many times I've just been at, I wasn't even at a networking event. I was just out in public and I told somebody, they asked, hey, so what do you do? And I'm like, oh, I do website design. They're like, oh, I need a website. And without even asking, they hire me on the spot to do a website for them. So you never know. Another great way to create awareness is to try to get on other people's podcasts, or if you can get any kind of interview, these are great ways that you can create an awareness of your brand. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about the next step, and the next step is preparation. So you've got your funnel down, and you've got all these ways that you're going to create awareness. Now it's time to prepare for your website. And one of the first things that you've got to understand is that without a database of leads, your business is going to struggle. And so you have to have an email autoresponder, some kind of service where, like MailChimp or Aweber, there's a whole host of different email programs out there to sign up for. And this is just going to be where all of your leads go into. So once you have that, then you want to create a website outline. Like, what are the pages that you're going to have on your website? What's the copy, the text that you're going to have on those? And often, this is something that a lot of people completely overlook when they're creating their website outline, because there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes. Like normally you'll go to somebody's website and you'll just see, homepage, about us, contact us, and maybe a couple of other links, products and services. But what you don't see behind the scenes is that there's a bunch of pages. So for example, if you're going to do a Facebook ad and say, hey, download the 3 top ways to, get a great client. You're not going to send them to your website per se. You're going to send them to a landing page. And that landing page is going to have the information about your, thing that you're giving away for free and a way to opt in. So having those pages, and then of course you have to follow that up with a thank you page. So having all of that stuff outlined before you get started is one of the steps of preparation. Next, you want to gather all of your assets, whether they be images, videos that either you own or that maybe somebody has of you, audio files, maybe an interview or a song if you're a musician, any kind of PDFs, copy, text, testimonials, images of the people that are giving, like a profile image of the person that's giving a testimonial. You want to gather all of those assets first as part of your preparation phase. And then lastly, we'll just talk about third-party apps and services. If you are we'll take a look here, like a Google account. I would highly recommend having a Google account for your alongside of your website and your business, because with your Google account, your Google Drive, you're going to be able to back up the files from your website off-site onto your Google Drive. You're going to be able to use Google for Google Analytics, which we'll talk about in a little bit. You're probably going to want some sort of a customer relations management CRM that could possibly integrate with your website. So you want to have all of that stuff set up first, and then it's time to go on to step 3, which is to execute your website objectives. And there's 4 objectives we're going to talk about. I'll just rip them out real quick and then we'll talk about each one individually. First one is to create brand awareness. Second one is to establish authority. Thirdly, you want to encourage action. And lastly, measure your results and your progress. So let's talk about each one of these 4 objectives individually. Let's start with, but before we do that, let's do this. This idea: people do business with people that they know, like, and trust. That is so huge, something huge to remember in building your business. They have to know you. You have to create that awareness. They have to like you. You have to create that engagement. And they have to trust you. You have to establish that authority before that they will actually start doing business with you. So let's talk about creating brand awareness. Now, these are all ideas that I'm kind of taking from my free guide, The 7 Secrets to a Website That Rocks. One of the things in creating brand awareness is you want to create a clear and consistent branding, not only on your website, but across all of your social media platforms, or anywhere that, on your flyers, anywhere that you appear publicly or that your brand appears publicly. You want to create a very clear and consistent branding message across all of those platforms. And of course, this shouldn't need to be said, but sometimes it does need to be said, that you want that representation to be very professional looking, and you want it to be very professional on all platforms. And one other thing that's important is to tell your story. It doesn't have to be this huge novel, but if there's some way that you can convey your story very briefly, that's going to be a part of your brand. And there's all kinds of other things that are involved in brand awareness. These are just a few of the things that I look for when I'm looking at developing a website. Secondly, establishing authority. Absolutely crucial in how you're going to build your brand and build your business. And several ways of doing that. One is by having testimonials on your website. Second would be social proof. So social proof might be something like having some kind of proof that people are engaging with your content. So for example, on your website, you could have pull in something from Facebook that says, so and so many people like this page or like this content or support this person or what have you. You get the idea. Publications. If there's any kind of publication, either that you've been published in or that you have published. So for example, if you've written a book or if you've been written up in an article, any kind of publication that's out there that either features you or is written by you is something that helps establish your authority. Any appearances, any places that you've spoken or performed, or again, maybe you've been interviewed or you've been written up in a paper, any place that you've appeared publicly, you want to use that and highlight that on your website to help establish your authority. Any kinds of accolades, degrees, certifications, licenses, anything like that, you want to highlight that as well on your website. And then lastly, a blog. If you have a blog that goes deep and expounds, on your expertise, that's going to help establish your authority. All right, moving on. You want to encourage people to take action. You don't want to just fill people's heads with knowledge. You want to lead them. You want to be in the driver's seat. You want to help lead people to the next step. And what is that next step? Well, every single page, not just a landing page or the home page, but every single page on your website should have a very clear call to action. Because somebody might come to your webpage via a search engine, or they might come to it, some other route where they don't land on your homepage, and they land on some page that's deeply nestled into your website. You want to have a call to action. You want to take advantage of that brief moment of opportunity to grab somebody's number, grab their email address, so that you can take the next step in the relationship. That call to action should be consistent with where they are at in the funnel or courtship process. So probably most people that go to your website, that visit your website, are going to be at this initial stage where you probably don't have their email address yet. They're just checking you out. So technically, now I'm not saying do this or don't do this, but technically, you shouldn't even have to have any kind of product listed on your website for sale, because listen, hear me out on this one. You'll be like, what? Wait, that's crazy. No, if you do it right, what would happen is you get people to come to your website, you just get their email address, and then you court them via email, and then you send them, depending on where they're at in the relationship, you send them to a particular landing page or a particular product page via email that's not readily available to their website or on your website. So you're not, overwhelming people at first, like buy this, take this step, take this huge step. It's like, no, you lead them through that process as you build the relationship. So there's that. And then lastly, just with encouraging action, I will just say pop-ups are not a bad thing. Pop-ups are very effective. I know people think they're annoying, but they're very effective. They've been proven effective in helping to build your database. All right, let's talk about the next thing, which is measuring your results and your progress. Very simply, you should have something in play that develops or delivers some kind of analytics to you, whether that be Google Analytics, like we talked about earlier, or some kind of A/B testing thing. These are not things that you can see on your website, but they're things that you need to have set up in place so that you can measure how effective your marketing is. And you can find out what's doing well, and you do more of that. Do more of what's working and eliminate what's not working for you. Okay? All right, so let's do this. Let's recap what we've talked about, the 3 steps. The first step is develop your marketing funnel. That's huge. Step 2 is just to prepare, make all of your preparations. And step 3, execute the 4 website objectives, which are, again, creating brand awareness, establishing authority, encouraging action, and measuring your results and progress. All right, now we are going to get into the juicy stuff. And this is the moment you've been waiting for. All right, we're going to take a look at an example website. We're going to take a look at joedubowski.com. Joe is a great friend of mine. He's just a sweet, gentle man who has been through the ringer. He has been through life's ringer. This guy is no joke. He is a hero in my eyes. Joe has an incredible story. Joe, I'm sure you've heard of the NIU tragedy where several college students were shot and killed. Joe's daughter, Gail, was one of the victims of that shooting, and Joe has bounced back. Man, he has gone through something that no person would wish on anybody, but he has come through in such an amazing way. He's got such an incredible story to tell. He's gotten better, not bitter, from his life's results. And one of the things that he's done is he's gone into counseling and therapy for other couples. He's licensed in Illinois, and he's written a book about the whole incident and how to help people. He has appeared on major television and in major newspapers, featured in all of these ways. And so I'm super encouraged and fired up just to help Joe with his website. He has a website set up. We're going to take a look at that website and find out how we can help him take that website to the next level based on these criteria that we've looked at today. So, and lastly, Joe has also been a member of Toastmasters. He's gotten out, spoken a lot. He's very comfortable speaking on stage. So we're going to take all of this information and we're going to now take a look at joedubowski.com. Let's dive in. Okay, well, here we are at joedubowski.com. And first thing I want to do is just say thank you to Joe for giving us permission to sort of put the microscope on his website, being a guinea pig here for our project here, and just opening up his site to us so that we can learn from what he's doing. So what I'm going to do first of all is just kind of go through a brief overview here of the site. We're on his home page. This is what we see when we first go to his site. So we got the home page. He's got an About Joseph link. So there's an About Us page, About Joseph. I've clicked on that, and as you can see, it's taking a little while to load, but that's kind of typical. So we got the About Joseph page with some stuff on it. We've got the blog page, which currently doesn't have anything. I know Joe, he just sent me something yesterday, an article that he's working on. So he's working on some content, but he doesn't have anything up there yet. He's got a contact page, and along just basically a form to fill out, some information about his hours and such, and then a client portal, which actually opens in a different window, as you can see from the website design, or the website address. It's clientsecure.me. So this is a different website. This is not his website, so it opens up in a different window. So we'll go back to his site and we'll go back to his home page, and we're going to kind of take a look at some of the things that we've talked about: creating brand awareness, establishing authority, encouraging action, and like I said, measuring results. We don't really see that. So let's take a look at sort of these big things first. Creating brand awareness. Okay, so he's branding himself as his name, which makes sense. A lot of us are doing that in this type of work, which totally makes sense. A few places where that shows up here on the first page is, first of all, the website address, which is joedubowski.com, and then the logo here, which is Joseph Dubowski, and then there's a little tagline underneath, couples counseling, grief recovery. So that's all in his branding. You have this thing, the link over here that says about Joseph. That also is his branding. And then there's, in this paragraph here, there's a thing that says at Joseph B. Dubowski Grief Recovery and Counseling. Okay. So the first thing that I'm going to say is that there's some inconsistency here. You've got the URL, which is Joe Dubowski, and then you've got the logo, which is Joseph Dubowski, and then you've got this thing here, which is Joseph B. Dubowski. So there's 3 different names so far for the business. So this is going to lead to some confusion. What I would recommend maybe in this situation, well, the first thing I would recommend is to pick one. Over here is about Joseph. Now, one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of skip ahead to something I've mentioned previously about his book. He's got a book called Cartwheels in the Rain. It's for sale here on Amazon. As his author name, he's got Joseph Dubowski. Okay, so that at this point probably you can't change. This is what I would recommend. Of course, my main recommendation is just being consistent with it. What I would do is I would encourage Joe to market himself as Joseph Dubowski. So here I would take out the B, and what I would also do is come up with a URL that is josephdubowski.com and use that as your main URL. So, sorry, Joe, but you're going to have to rebuild your website on another domain. But what you can do, though, is keep this URL, the joedubowski.com URL, and just simply forward that, set that up as a forward to your main domain, which is going to be Joseph Dubowski. Okay. Now, the other thing I will just kind of point out is here on the tagline, you've got couples counseling / grief recovery, whereas over here you've got grief recovery and counseling. Okay, so that is a little bit, again, kind of an inconsistency. It's very subtle, but it's creating, it's sort of diminishing your authority and your brand, because there's it might be completely under the radar and unnoticeable by most people, but what they're going to sense is a little bit of confusion. And I know Joe is in the business of bringing peace and calm to people's lives. So that would be one thing to take a look at. Now, we want to talk about branding not only on the website, but across all social platforms as well. So let's take a look at his, we're just going to close this out. We're going to take a look at his Facebook page. And on his Facebook page, he's got Joe Dubowski, and then some letters after that. And then in the header, he's got this thing called, this banner, and in it it's saying Grief Recovery Method Specialist. Okay, so that is all of a sudden now putting him in a kind of a different category, or it's a different trajectory to his brand. So it says nothing here about what it says over on his website, which is he's into couples counseling or just counseling. So here we're kind of made to think, because this is the banner of his page, that he is a grief recovery method specialist. Now, there's some disjunctness here about the brand, but also one thing to think about is if you are a specialist in anybody else's method, that's great. That's fantastic. But I would not market myself as a specialist in somebody else's method, because what that does is that decreases or diminishes my authority. Certainly, you could have it as an accolade, something like, here's the different things I do. By the way, I'm also a grief recovery method specialist. Okay, so that's one of the accolades, not a brand. You don't want to identify your brand as somebody who is a specialist for somebody else's brand. Okay, so let's take a look at the this is his LinkedIn profile. Here we have Joseph Dubowski. So again, kind of the name inconsistency would be great to see a great consistency in the branding. One thing I'm just going to mention real quick on the LinkedIn profile. I'm not a LinkedIn specialist. I can refer you guys to one, but we could take a look at this as well. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there to say there's some things we could do to help out there as well. All right, moving right along quickly here. Now this is Joe's Twitter page. Oh, let me bounce back real quick to the LinkedIn profile. There's this banner up here that's not being used for anything. So up here, I'll talk in a minute what I think should go up here, but something that I think could be on his website, on his Facebook page, on his LinkedIn profile banner, and then we take a look at his Twitter. There's nothing up there as well. All of these things can be used, by the way, these spaces as banners can be used to reiterate your brand. So that's the first thing that I would take a look at is the branding. Just decide on what is going to be your name. As I mentioned, I would suggest Joseph Dubowski be your brand name, and then make that consistent across all of your platforms, and then your banner. What the main thing, your main story, what that's going to be about is not something that somebody else. You're not working for somebody else. You are the authority, so you're gonna market that and promote that. Okay. So as long as we're talking about authority, let's go ahead and mention that. So one of the things that we talked about in establishing authority is if there's anything publication. We know that Joseph has written this book called Cartwheels in the Rain, Finding Faith in the Wake of the Unthinkable. Great book. Problem is we don't see that book anywhere on the site. I think it showed up in the About section as a right at the very bottom of, and I know I've talked to Joe, and I know he knows this, and he has plans to implement this and to make this more visible. I just wanted to point it out here for the sake of the class, that we could all learn from this. He's got it down here at the bottom of his About page. I think that's something that should be prominently displayed on the home page. Author of, Cartwheels in the Rain, okay? So that's one of the ways to create authority. Again, one of the other ways is through testimonials. I know Joe has a plan to put testimonials on his website, but currently there are no testimonials on the website. Another thing, I know that Joe has appeared in on many major networks, television, newspapers, all of these different things. There's nothing about that anywhere here on the site. So you may have seen, some people that have like as seen on, and then have it listed. I mean, that is going to, let me just pull up an example. And so we're going to take a look at Tiamo Music, as seen on NBC, MSNBC, Fox, CBS. So he has all of these, and you've probably seen them displayed other ways as well. So I would recommend having those logos or newspaper logos anywhere, as seen on, and that will really lend credibility to your authority. And if you have a screenshot, so if you have a screenshot from any of those videos or places that you've appeared in interviews, like, hey, here's Joe being, interviewed by Katie Couric. Have a screenshot of that. That would additionally lend credibility and authority. Okay, the blog. What I would recommend with any blog, first of all, if you have no articles, if you have no blog articles, that's fine. But don't have a link to it if you don't have any, blog articles. I know that Joe's website is built on WordPress, so I know it's very easy on the back end to just remove links. So I would take it out, and what I would recommend is, if you're going to have a blog, have at least 5 or 6 articles already written, and then you can actually space them out time-wise how they're published. You can actually publish them basically all at once, but then you can indicate the date. You can sort of backdate them if you want. So spread them out, like maybe so that they appear like every week that you're writing a blog post. So when people come to your site, they're going to see, oh, he's got some content as well. So that's what I would recommend as far as establishing authority in that sense. Okay. Now, so those are just a few things that you can do to establish authority. Let's go to the next topic, which is to encourage action. Let's go to the home page. So let's take a look at the calls to action that are here. You've got this one that says contact Joe to find out more. Okay. I will say that if it's somebody who's just finding out about you online, well, first of all, I think it's great that they can contact you and that you have that there's no barrier to contacting you, that if they feel comfortable contacting you and approaching you, that you give them that option. I think that's absolutely fantastic. But just know that not everybody's going to be in that situation. And if they're just checking you out and they don't know anything about you and they want to learn a little bit more about you, that contacting you might be a little intimidating to them. So maybe what they want to do is just get some more information. They want to have, maybe you have something free to offer them, and they can download that and consume that on their own time without taking that risky step of, actually contacting you. Let's move down. We've got 2 buttons down here. I would call them call to action buttons. One is contact Joe to find out more, which is the same call to action as you have up here. And then another one is request an appointment. Okay, all fine. These are fine calls to action, but again, they're not, you're not giving the option of, well, what if they just want more information without contacting you? So that's one thing to think about. The other thing to think about is just how visible or how standout-ish are your calls to action. This one down here, it's underlined, so it does draw a little bit of attention to itself, but it's not super loud. And then you've got these 2 down here, which are right next to each other, and they're in kind of a real dark color. Typically, what you want to do is offer one call to action per page, at the most 2, but the one that you want the most to take action on, you want it to be a bright color and something that contrasts with everything else. So the color scheme of this website is already kind of a dark green, and then these buttons down here are dark green buttons. So nothing is really standing out as something like that's drawing me in, saying, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna go there to take action." Like if there was a big red button right in the middle of this thing that says, "Download my free grief guide," All right, so call to action, but you do have, at least you have a call to action on your page. You could stand to tweak that a little bit. Let's take a look at the About Joseph page. Now you do have this Contact Joe to find out more, which I believe leads them to the contact page. Other than that, there's no other call to action. So again, is that going to be the best call to action? Yeah, so that leads to the contact page. So we'll do this. Since there's no blog, we'll just jump to the contact page here and take a look at that. So as far as call to action, now this is a little confusing because I just came to this page because I wanted to contact you. But the first thing that stands out to me is this request appointment button. And so now I'm confused because I've got, request appointment, or do I fill out the form? Well, let me click the request appointment and see what happens. Okay, so that brings up what looks like maybe a plugin that you have that is, psychiatric diagnostic evaluation, grief recovery method one-on-one. I don't know anything about this, so I'm not going to request an appointment. So that was a little confusing. You probably don't want to have requested an appointment. Maybe you would probably want to have a page that describes what these things are. Okay, so that describes, like you have a services page that describes what a psychiatric diagnostic evaluation is. Is it right for you? Click here to schedule an evaluation. Have something that describes the grief recovery method. Is the grief recovery method right for you? Click here to schedule an appointment. So, maybe there would be separate buttons. I'm not sure, but this is just a bit too confusing. But there is the form, name, email, subject, your message. So this is probably just a standard form. Okay, so you have ways for people to contact you. Here's something that, for me personally, I live in Chicago and I drive, and parking, and I'm originally from Minnesota. Parking is not a problem in Minnesota. Parking is a serious problem in Chicago. So I'm very, very, very acutely aware of parking. So what I would do, because you have listed here your location for your office, what I would do is indicate what the parking is like, and indicate, have a map. I'm not, like, you can't click on anything. Like, I would have a Google map that you can click on, and they can, people can find, because here's what happens. I go someplace and I'm in my car and I'm like, okay, where am I going? Like, I didn't stop to figure out, maybe I should figure this out before I go. So I pull it up on my phone and I'm going to rely on my phone GPS. So you definitely want to have a link where people, like, let's see, joedubowski.com. Okay, type that in nice and easy. Easily redirects to josephDubowski.com. I pull up the contact page, and maybe you even want to have that on the home page at the bottom, or in the footer of the home page. You have that map, like, have all of this contact information in the footer of every single page of your website. Okay, so those are the few main things. We can't really talk about measuring results because we don't have access to the back end of the website, the administrative end of the website, so we can't see what's going on in the background. But let's just kind of go through now. I'm going to kind of comb through some finer details of the site. We'll start back on the home page. So one of the things that you have to do is you have to put yourself in your potential client's shoes. What are they thinking? What are they experiencing? What kind of problems are they facing? What answers did they want? And that's how you have to look at your website. We are all experts in what we do, and so we want people to know all of this expertise right off the bat, and there's so many things that we're excited and fired up about that we want people to know about. But honestly, people don't care about most of the stuff that we know. They don't care. It helps in developing your authority and establishing you as a trustworthy person to go to, but they don't necessarily care about the specifics. So with that in mind, let's go through and kind of read through some of this from a user's perspective. So we've got the first thing that I think really stands out, of course, is this gray box that says grief is normal and natural. Okay, that's not bad. What it does for the visitor, the website visitor, is it validates them, which is great. But validation kind of stops there. Like, oh, well, that's great. And so what you may want to think about is making this more of a call to action, or a little bit more of a promise. Like, I can't think of something specifically to say there, but this isn't bad. I mean, it's way better than, welcome to my website, which a lot of people put. Grief is normal and natural. But the other thing to understand is that when people visit a website, the very first thing they do is they scan the whole thing visually, and they just kind of take it in from a bird's eye view, and what they're looking for is visual cues and for headlines. By the way, this visual cue of this picture, it's not a bad picture. It's actually kind of thought provoking, because it's not a beautiful flower. It looks like something that's had a rough time, So I can relate to that. I'm covered with cobwebs and I don't have I've lost a lot of leaves. Maybe they've been eaten off by bugs. So I can kind of relate. That's not a bad picture for this site. So you might want to just rethink the headline here. Is there something that could be a little bit more that really get people to want to read, like, oh, he's promising that he could solve my problem, let me read further. But what they're going to do is they're going to look at this visually. You've got the headline, but then you've got 2 paragraphs, and like right off the bat, and so you're asking them to commit right off the bat to read. And most people are going to be like, whoa, that's too much. Like maybe 1 paragraph, but in this section, what they call a hero section or huge banner, 1 headline, maybe 1 sentence, and then a call to action right off the bat. Okay, so this is just too much information that they need to. You're asking them to commit to you a lot of time right off the bat. Time is precious. The next thing that you have is your mission statement. And I know you love your mission statements, but nobody cares about your mission statement. They might find it interesting at some point once they get to know you a little bit better, but it certainly is not something that you want to put like right up top, right up front. What you probably want to have here instead is like some kind of an opt-in. Like you want to put, maybe a nice picture of yourself on the home page would not be inappropriate. Joseph Dabowski, author of Cartwheels in the Rain, get a free chapter, download a free chapter now, opt in, for that. And then you send them a series of emails to follow up on that. So keep the mission. It's a great mission statement, by the way. I would just maybe put it somewhere else, maybe on the About page, the bottom of this page, what have you. Now, this section here is talking about different things, losses in life where people might experience grief. But there's no explanation as to what this section is about. So you'd want to have some kind of a headline, something, maybe ask a question. Questions are great. Questions make great headlines with a ... Have you experienced any of these tragedies or whatever? Have you experienced any of these? ... Death of a child, blah, blah, blah. And then, I don't know, like, are these supposed to be links? Like, none of these link to anything. Maybe, because this is a lot of reading too. Like, maybe instead of all of these sentences, just have them as something that they could click on and then find out more information about each of those individual things. Then you could say, I'm here to help. You know, here's a couple of ways to get help. Okay, so yeah, and then as far as sections, so for example, this mission statement would be one section. These things here would be one section, and then this down here is another section. Oftentimes what you want to do is separate them visually somehow. Like right now they're all on white space. There is a separator here, like a line separator. Okay, it's something, but you know, you could do a full screen width separation, like maybe have a different background color, alternating background color kind of separations. It's just visually, it helps people. It just makes your website a little bit more user friendly in that it helps them break things down in their mind on a subconscious level. Okay. Now, the other thing I was going to, well, I already mentioned as far as what you have in here, the Joseph Dabowski grief recovery, blah, blah, blah. That's, again, part of your branding consistency. Okay, cool. Got it. All right, let's go look at your About page again a little bit more closely. You know, visually, it's a little disjunct, not super appealing right off the bat. It's like, what's going on here? It kind of looks like things were just kind of thrown up there. So, you know, it's great that you have a picture, why this is blue, and I don't know, it's disjunct and looks a little funky. So, that's just a layout issue, okay? One of the things that I saw here is that one of the very first things you say is, I am a Christian couples and family therapist. So a couple of things with that, right? I'm not sure, like Christian couples and family therapist or Christian couples and Christian family therapist. Like, that is a confusing phrase right there. Not only is it a confusing phrase, but it also, this word Christian, all of a sudden you've added a completely different dynamic to your branding that has not been we've not been made aware of at any point up until now when we start reading this. And so that's, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with marketing yourself as that. This is just too late in the game to introduce this concept. So if you want to market yourself as that, then have it in your branding. Christian, I almost said cripples, Christian couples counseling and grief recovery or what have you. And I understand Joe has communicated that he wants to do more of this marketing as a Christian thing, and that's fine. I'm just going to kind of go off on something here that just a personal thing of mine, because this is something that I've had to deal with too because I'm a musician, and I have thought, okay, you know, I have a message to share, and I'm a Christian. Do I want to get the Christian aspect into that? And so I've struggled with this as well, and what I've come up with is that the message that I have is for everybody. It doesn't matter if they're a Christian or not. So I don't want to alienate anybody. I don't want a Jewish person or a non-believer or somebody of a completely different faith to come to my website, come to me looking for help, and I've got answers. I've been through things that they might be going through, and I have answers for them. But now all of a sudden, most people that are not Christians think that Christians are very judgmental. So I would, my personal recommendation would be, I don't think this is going to help your brand. And Joe and I have had conversations about this topic, and he's even like, I don't bring it up unless they, want it. So this could be a huge barrier for you, putting that out there. I would take it out personally, and not have that as a stumbling block for people. So it's inconsistent with your brand is the main point. And then on personal levels, it's just, I don't think it's helpful for your brand. Okay. So we won't read through all of this, but he does go in and talk about some of the ways that he is credited. I will just say one of the things about, there's a lot of text here again, so you're asking people to commit. One of the things that you want to do, again, it's a visual thing. When somebody comes to your page and they say, oh, that's a lot of stuff, I don't want to read all that. So what you want to do is you want to break it up and put subsections, subheadings in here. Put bullet points. Make it very easily, like when they view it, like it just looks easy to read. This doesn't look easy to read. This looks like a bit of a commitment, because people's attention spans are just like, probably most of you are not listening anymore. I've lost you. So thanks for hanging in with me. So there's the about Joseph. And then you have down here some other things. So this page says about Joseph, but then we have these things like, okay, what is this about? Are these your programs? I'm guessing so. But again, there's no headline here. So if you want to keep this here, I would at least put a headline. What you want to do is change the About Joseph link to just simply About, and then you could do a couple of things. You could either have it all on one page, have About Joseph Dubowski, maybe have some of these things that you have, like a licensed marriage and family therapist. Maybe have that as a a little caption underneath your image. And then another section header that says about our programs, and they would have to be about the not actual like services page where it really goes into, or maybe you could do that here, but you have to be real clear about what it is people are. Why am I going to read this? Create some guidelines for them. All right, fantastic. And then the blog, we talked about contact again. We talked about that. What I was going to say before, like I mentioned earlier, this information, what you could do is have that at the bottom, have it in the footer of every one of your pages. So. And then we don't know about any of the programs that you offer. I know Joe did mention that he wants to add an events page, which I think is great because he hosts events. So just we need more information about the specifics that you do. Okay, so there's just a couple of things. We're going to wrap this up. Just a couple more things I wanted to touch on. So back here on the homepage, this is what I was trying to allude to earlier. It says that Joseph Dubowski, Recovery Counseling, we understand the need to be listened to. Okay. What's really confusing about this is that you say we understand. Who is we? Because so far, as we've looked at the website, all we know is that there's Joseph Dubowski. Who else is there? So I'm not sure if the we is appropriate, that we offer. So I would just put I offer. So yeah, rewriting, and I think it appears at a couple of, right, even the mission statement, our mission, Our mission. Who's us? Who's our mission? My mission is to foster understanding and such. Okay, this is about you. Take ownership of your awesomeness and go for it. Now, the other thing is, we talked about one of the ways of creating awareness is by doing some public speaking. I would imagine if somebody's heard about your story and they come to your website, I would imagine they want to know, do you do speaking engagements? Can you come and speak at our church, at our synagogue, at our, place of work or whatever? So have a speaking tab. If you have any video or any pictures of you speaking, put those up there and talk about, the different topics that you can speak about. And obviously, here's another little trick. I know Joe's been in Toastmasters, and I know Toastmasters runs all kinds of different contests. And people get involved in these contests, and they win prizes. And so I don't know if this is true for Joe, but it's a possibility that Joe could say that he is an award-winning speaker. Who knows what that means? But if it's true, I would put that on your website. So under your speaking tab, they go to the speaking page. Joe is an award-winning speaker. Have him, come. Here's some pictures, video, whatever. Have him come to your place and speak. So that would be a great way of generating more awareness, possibly generating some revenue. And then a couple other things real quick here. You listed here, I think on the About page, that the grief recovery method, based on you got to put a link to this. Like, what is the grief recovery method? Like, what is that all about? And why should that be of concern to me? So put a link that opens up in a new window. You don't want to take them away from your website. But put a link to it. I think that would be helpful. I think that's somewhere in here. You mentioned the situation. Obviously the big thing, the big thing, and it's super unfortunate that it happened. But you have this story of where you lost your daughter in this tragedy, and I think that's part of, it's not, maybe not all of your story, but it's a big part of your story. And I think to make that more prominent on your website, as part of your brand, as part of your story, to get that out there more prominently, not as a paragraph, embedded somewhere deep within the website that they finally find out this about you. I think bring that out into the open right off the bat. And then I know that Joe has an office where he has, people need to fill out a lot of forms. Maybe it would be a good idea to have those forms available on your website. Like, is there some place that you can go and download forms? Maybe have that in the footer of the website, so that people can print them out and fill them out and come to your office with the forms already filled out. So it's just an idea if there's any forms involved. So that's it. That's all I have for now. Again, super big thank you to Joe for allowing us to take a look at his website. I will say that this website is built on WordPress, which is mobile responsive. Again, that's a huge thing. We won't take a look at it. I've already taken a look at it. It's fine. It looks fine. It responds well on mobile, but that's definitely something that you want to check on your websites. How does it look on a mobile device, on tablets, on phones, in landscape and portrait, view? Make sure that it looks great in all these views to maintain that professional branding appeal. Other than that, guys, I hope you've found this helpful. and building your client attracting rockstar website. And take care for now. If you have any questions, you can feel free to call or to contact me at rockstarwebsitedesign.com. Would love to be able to help you in any way I can. Take care.